Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. So in this episode, I'm excited to welcome back our guest, Curtis Harkness. Curtis is the Chief Marketing Officer, or CMO, at 35 Creatives in Miami, Florida. Curtis, thank you so much for joining the show once again.
Ryan, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here, and I promise you I'm going to stay in frame. I got
Hey,
excited.
it's all good, man. The last episode was good, so I'm excited to dive into this one. And the topic of this episode is going to be about event marketing and AI, and I'm excited to hear about your stories as you were just at the Super Bowl and also CES. So we'll dive into that later. But for those who may not have heard the first episode with you, let's do a quick intro on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, no, great. Curtis Harkness, 35 Creatives. I'm a managing partner and chief marketing officer. I'm also an MC and live event host, and so you'll get a little bit more of that when I get into about the events. Excited to be here. We're all about digital marketing, branding, and just creating the best experience for you and your customers.
Awesome. So let's quickly remind the audience too, like what 35 Creative sets apart from other marketing agencies. There are thousands of these agencies out there.
Yeah.
So why 35 Creatives? And I guess why did you decide to work for them?
So at 35 Creatives is all about authenticity. And we look at the level of care that we give and an experience for our partners. And so our biggest thing is everybody can do data, everybody can do SEO, but how many people can actually connect with their actual consumer authentically? And people want an authentic connection. We don't want to be sold to. And so here at 35, that's our job and that's our mission, is to help you tell your most authentic story, even if it's a little bit friction. You have to be honest, and that's what we like to try to help our clients get to. And when they do it, people love the vulnerability and they subscribe, they jump in, and we see amazing results.
Authenticity is key, bro. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, to be 100% authentic. So I see your hat there at the Super Bowl. Let's dive into that. Tell me about your experience going to the Super Bowl, whether it's from an event marketing perspective. I guess give me some background on why you were there and what you were doing there.
Yeah, so 35 Creatives, they actually partnered with a company called Event Live Entertainment. And I'm an MC and host myself, and I've been doing it since 2011 in the event world. And with them, it's actually been really cool. Been working with them. We did their SEO, we did their website, did some of the social media, helping them get things in order, and then partner because, hey, what better way? We do event marketing also, and they do event marketing. And what we offer is slightly different. So at the Super Bowl, we were able to work together where I was a host and MC. We also were able to get content and different things with them. And so it was a crazy experience. It's Las Vegas. Nobody wants to be in Las Vegas more than 3 days. Sorry, Las Vegas. But even people who live there know you don't go on the strip for longer than 2 to 3 days. But it was an awesome experience. Crazy game, but really cool fans. And it's always a place to get to put your finger on the pulse of what's going on in sports marketing and what people are reacting to. And so that's always great market research for us.
Yeah, you know my two Iowa guys are on the 49ers. We got Brock Purdy and George Kittle. So my fiance is a huge Iowa State fan. She loves Brock Purdy. So he's from my home state. So let's talk about the Super Bowl quick too. I want to dive into more of that experience. We talked about AI kind of offline. How did you see AI being leveraged at the Super Bowl? Whether it was the events, the advertising, just tell me about how AI incorporated into your experience there.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is advertising. Some of the things I saw, and a lot of people won't see this, but seeing how certain ads were being projected, and that's a lot of Google ads and some of the others, but you could see the AI where it's like twisting a little bit and modifying it to fit in certain niches, because I would do some things on purpose to change it up. I have multiple phones, and so I follow different accounts, I post different things to see exactly what I get. And then the other thing too, which is a little bit understandable, is some of the smaller companies were using AI generated content, as in like branding. Now, it wasn't the best, and unfortunately those brands, people could see it. But, that's something that a brand would think they can do and get away with. But people know when things are AI generated and when they're not, when they're created like by true creation. And so that's something that I saw was a draw for some. that use the AI the wrong way, where you could use it actually to inspire inspiration, and then you create, instead of just kind of using it, and then just trying to pass it off. And then the other thing with AI I saw, of course, was like people using augmented reality for experiences, and that's one thing that AI does really well, is help kind of blend those backgrounds and blend all those different things there to be able to give that full experience.
Did you see like the Apple Vision Pro? Is that what you're talking about?
No, not the Apple Vision Pros. They have some custom built things, more on on a larger scale, where it was you're immersing yourself in it and you kind of see it later, and the AI just kind of puts things around.
Yeah, so I guess talk about, where do you see the future of this going? I mean, how are these companies going to be utilizing AI in event marketing in 2024 and beyond?
Well, that's the biggest thing, right? Event marketing is the place where you experience offline, and it then fuels online action. And so the biggest thing is, if people actually get it right, which is not just trying to go all AI, but actually trying to infuse the human experience, where it's like, hey, you have control. We're going to assist you to do some things you never thought you could do, or an experience you never thought you could have. And you tie it back with the product, that is when they're going to win. So when I see something, really cool, was Uber Eats, where Uber Eats, you could do an order and you went through like a realistic type of like store, and like they're giving you all these pretty cool things, and you pick up your order at the end. Using AI then to then help you then future cast on what else you could do potentially with a Vision Pro, or with a what's Facebook's thing,
Oh,
Meta
the
Quest.
Oculus or the,
You know,
yeah.
they're coming up with more and more options. That's when you infuse that realistic, because then it's like, oh, I can actually be even more immersed, where you still build the beautiful immersive set, but then you also add that action, and you can have like people, and you can have things pop up, and that's where that I see it actually could go even further. Because the other thing is putting yourself inside the Super Bowl experience. Instead of just yelling and pumping in noise, you can have that all built out and then put on AI, or have AI in the TV screens like TCL was doing, which was really, really cool. So there's some really good things that are going to happen, I believe. And it's just really, I can't wait to see it.
So my next question was going to be, what was your favorite, booths or companies utilizing AI in marketing at the Super Bowl? You mentioned Uber Eats, you mentioned TLC. Were there any some others that caught your attention?
Sorry, TCL.
A TCL.
Yeah, yeah. The Super Bowl didn't use as much AI as it could have done, just because Super Bowl is a little bit more. They're still getting there with some of the newer technologies. But a few companies that did well, I believe. I think Nickelodeon used it a little bit, with like the splat. Excuse me. And, this is how it is.
It's all good, bro. It's
There we go.
authenticity.
I want to make sure I'm looking
Yeah.
good. I want to make sure I'm looking good for those clips. But no, Nickelodeon did a pretty good job, and it wasn't a whole bunch; it was just a little bit. But they were more of an active kind of thing, which was great. And then just the NFL themselves being able to show you like different ways they have the trophies and the rings and the whole ring experience. Those are a few things that I saw that did well. I know there's going to be more. It just takes time as these guys are, getting used to it.
Yeah, I know you were also at CES earlier.
Yes,
Was it last year? Does that stand for Consumer Electronics Show, correct?
yes, it
Was that
does.
also in Vegas?
That was in Vegas. I've been
Talk
in
about
Vegas
that.
more. I've been in Vegas more this year than I've been at home.
Talk about
Uh,
CES and your experience there.
yes. So CES was actually even like, of course, CES is much better with AI and event. Now there are a lot of hits and there are a lot of misses. And so with that, what I want to make sure people understand is, just because you throw AI out there doesn't mean that AI is everything. You have to still have that human connection. And so with us, what we found out at CES, I was there actually with Samsung, and I was hosting the Samsung food cooking show. Now, I was using AI for the cooking show. And the cool thing was, from AI, we were able to take a photo, and from the photo, it like literally of food items, of just like tomatoes, onions, it then gave us recipes. It logged what was in the refrigerator because it was connected, and then it, even in that, was able to turn on the oven when it was time to start to preheat to cook the oven during the prep time. It's so crazy what AI did with Samsung, with how it was interconnected. It actually made sense. Instead of just saying we have an AI this, Samsung went the next step and actually integrated AI into all of I say the smart things that they have. And so you were able to actually utilize that because it connects with the washer and dryer. So even if I'm cooking something, I can check my oven and what's going on at the washing machine,
Yeah,
right? I can
absolutely.
have the vacuum to come in AI and clean as I finish after everything's turned off. So it's really crazy what they were able to do. And it was just an overload of AI at CES, but I think there were only a few that actually did it really well. And Samsung, to me, were one of the best just because of AI was there, but B, just their focus on it and how it connects everything.
I'm glad you distinguished really well because that's one of the biggest flaws that I see with these companies is they'll always just talk about AI this, AI that to pump their share price if they're publicly traded. And it's like, okay, well, how are you using AI, number one? And number two,
Exactly.
how is this applicable to your consumer? People just like to throw around the term AI without explaining the use cases for it. So I respect you distinguishing that as I think that's one of the biggest issues right now in the AI space. So let's talk about 2024. Are there any other events that you plan on going to? Talk about your, I guess, future calendar here for events.
Yeah, potentially. We're looking at, you have the Olympics coming up. Would love to do that. Hey, let me know. We are in talks with a few different brands. The Final Four is going to be another big consumer driven event. You have two, you have the women's and the men's. Then you have the College World Series. You have right now this weekend, we're not going to be there, but there are some people there. You have the NBA All Star weekend, and they're using AI. You can see even AI and augmented reality when you watch a game now, and almost any sport, there's some type of you know element projected on there that the players or anybody in the stands don't actually see. So those are a few events coming up that I can't wait to be a part of. Of course, we always have down the line World Series, MLB, All Star, but you also have Mobile World Congress. I'm not going to that. I would love to try to go to that. That's in Barcelona, and you will see definitely some AI heavy features there. Especially with now Samsung's Galaxy S24 being fully AI, added to the features. Google's already had it before anybody else into the Pixel, so that's something I'm excited to see. And waiting to see if Apple's going to add anything.
The Olympics will be interesting for sure, and the World Cup's
Very
also coming to the states. I don't know exactly what year, but in a few years, so that'll be
2026.
that'll be
20,
really interesting to see how AI is utilized at the World Cup. You mentioned the women's Final Four, Caitlin Clark, obviously an Iowa person as well. She's kind of blowing up the scene right now. Iowa's everywhere, bro. I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Final Four is always something that's been great. I've been blessed to be able to go to about six of them, and I've actually been to three of the games. I actually was at the game. I think it was Duke. And then I was at the game also for UNC when they lost, and then when they won the next time. So it's been a crazy way to see it, but it's always great to see that tenacity and that grit.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about AI in sports. I know we talked about kind of the event side and like the CES and the Super Bowl. I want to hear your take on just sports in general, whether it's teams, whether it's organizations. How do you see them leveraging AI in their marketing efforts?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it two ways with sports. One is competitive. Competitive, I can use AI to generate, potential situations for me to train with and getting training like patterns. The other thing, though, with actual marketing is actually using AI to figure out, what might work. Right? You can run data through AI now, and then once that data comes out, you can actually have the human side do an even better job of actually breaking it down. But AI will help that big part of a lot more data now you can actually crunch. And that's the big part. We have a lot of data, but how do we actually crunch it? How do I actually get the information to be able to use it? Like, what is usable information from this data? What's the story? And so that's where I see AI actually helping in marketing. It's not really doing the marketing, but it's more taking that data and breaking it down and then informing the agency. So like ourselves, like it'll inform us, hey, we now see that this type of content, not just because Instagram and Meta tells us it does better, but we can actually see even deeper, from looking at all the different platforms and putting all that data together that, oh, you actually do a much better job when you speak about or put out things that have more heart. And if you saw the Super Bowl commercials this year, there were a lot more heartfelt commercials than it was just like being funny and outlandish because people have a softer heart I think since the pandemic, just because of shared experience.
Emotion
And
also
so
sells, bro, too.
exactly. Emotions. And so that's the thing is you can hit certain emotions, but do it in a way that is like, oh, you actually did not try to sell me, but you actually pulled up some emotion of something that happened to me, and now I actually connect, and I trust you a little bit more.
The only AI commercial I remember was Microsoft Copilot. I remember there was a Microsoft Copilot commercial. And I was like, "Wow!" I started using Copilot before they even branded it as
Yeah,
Copilot. It was
yeah.
Bing Chat before it was Microsoft Copilot. So I think it's definitely becoming more mainstream now, which is cool to see. You mentioned data, and I want to kind of expand on that a little bit. It reminds me of Moneyball when you talked about data and how whether it's like for teams. I know we were talking about marketing, but think about teams and player development and trading and rosters and all the ins and outs of sports management. I think of Moneyball, where think about how tedious and hard that process was to compile all these statistics and find trends. And like, think about how AI now is going to incorporate all that sort of thing and define, maybe expand off of what Moneyball accomplished in baseball or even in basketball or even in other sports. What are your thoughts on that?
They're already using it. If you know AWS, that's literally what the
Yeah.
NFL is doing. And the coaches now, instead of going just off of their gut, they have data that is literally instantly given to them. 4th and 3, you've been driving. This is all the data we've compiled. Should you go for it? And
Here's the
it's like,
defense
yes, go for
tendencies. Here's the
it.
guy with the, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, go for it. And so now that you're going for it, it's even better because now you have data to back up why you need to go for it instead of just it's my gut. So if it doesn't work, then it's like okay, and excuse me, guys, my apologies. If you don't go for it, or if you do go for it and you don't get it, good thing is it's like hey, okay, well the data now will update, and next time it comes up, you have a different. But they're using it already, especially in the NFL, to give you like the very next play, predictions. And that's something that AWS has been promoting a big time the last, like, I think 5 to 7 years. And we were actually with Amazon over the break at Super Bowl. And so that was something that they were really pushing and let us know, AI and their cloud computing and what they're able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big baseball guy, so Moneyball is like my favorite movie. So I always like to throw that example around. And I know data's always been used, but it's been more tedious to use it. It's
Yeah.
been a lot more work required to compile all this data and statistics. Where AI now, the algorithms can just speed that up literally in seconds, and it's unbiased too. So when you have all these people doing data calculations, there's always some bias somewhere. Whenever someone crunching numbers or providing you with statistics, AI cuts all the bias out. And I think that's really important to distinguish.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the biggest thing now too is with the unbiased with AI, it's still you still need a human to help with that full story, but it's you can put more on it instead of having to feel like you're overloading the humans that you had doing it. So I don't always think a lot of people think, oh, it's going to replace it. No, I think you could just add more to it, and then the humans can do even more with that extra time and that extra like power that's informing them.
Yeah, because AI and numbers can't always measure, human psychology or how someone is in the locker room. They can't measure these
Exactly.
types of traits. So I think that's important to distinguish too. So let's transition to Quacks now, Curtis. It is the Marketing Quacks podcast. This is my favorite segment of the show. Let's define a quack, I guess, in event marketing or people using AI in events. Let's talk about that realm and where you see some quacks.
Yeah, I saw it a little bit at CES. I'm not going to say what it was or who it was, but I saw huge AI generated content that was used, and I'm like, oh, and everybody, I'll be honest, was tired of AI, right? Because there was no actual use case, and so that's something. One of the quacks I've seen is people just throwing AI on everything. It's like AI this and AI that, and you're like, bro, toilet paper cannot have AI. Like, what is it going to wipe my butt better? But that's something that people are trying to do, especially at CES. Just throw AI, and it's just a buzzword. But one of the biggest quacks is making sure if you use AI and put AI in a product, it actually gives me something I need, and that's one of the biggest quacks I've seen, not just in products but in marketing, is people using AI to do things that you think it's going to do well because it's cheaper and save some money, but it's actually not, and it's actually missing the mark because we know it's AI, and we don't like to feel like it's been cheapened when prices have risen. And I don't mind you using AI. I want you to use AI because I know you can do a lot more with it, but don't cheapen my experience because you just used AI and you printed it, and that's
One
that's
thing
the part.
One thing that's not talked about enough, in my opinion, is the shiny object syndrome that's tied to AI. I mean, this is tied to a lot of industries, and I'm definitely guilty of this where, oh my God, there's a new tool here and there's this chat GPT alternative here. Well, now I've spent more time going down the rabbit hole of researching all these tools when in reality, it was actually just using GPT-4 API key from OpenAI. So it's the same thing as chat GPT. And it's like, wow, I wasted 2 hours going down the rabbit hole learning this tool when it's just the same thing as chat GPT plus. So I think that's important to talk about too, is the quack there where people might say AI this, AI that, when in reality it sounds like cool and useful to go in because you think you're going to save time and money, but you're actually going to waste time and money because most of these AI tools are not what people are promising. They don't deliver.
No, and that's the biggest thing. They want AI to replace humans now, and the problem is it will never replace humans because it can't be a human. But the big thing that people don't realize is use it as an assist to help you do your job. Not I want to use it to do my job. And that's the part where if we actually used AI how we're supposed to, then it can actually be beneficial to everybody. Otherwise, it's just a marketing quack.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So, on a final note, any advice that you have for event marketers, people using AI at these events that
Yeah,
you've
of
been
course.
to? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Hire me as your event host. I'm joking. No, I mean the biggest thing is partnering with the right agencies. Agencies that know what's going on, the agencies that are willing to work. The second thing is actually have a budget. Don't try to cut corners. The money that you invest in this experience is going to be more useful than just spending money on social media, because these people will leave and remember it and they're going to then post. And then the final thing is, if you're going to say you're using AI, make sure you have a reason for it. Make sure it's actually doing something at the event. Don't just say AI. Perfect case and example, Samsung Food did a great job with AI in their product and making you see it in a way that you can use it in your daily life.
I love that. Making sure you stand out at events is huge. I'm just thinking of all the events and conferences that I go to. You think about the typical booth where it's people just trying to sell you shit and you don't want any part of it. You have to make an impact when you're there.
Yeah,
Typically it costs a lot of money to go to these things. So the number one thing I would have in my head as a marketer, if I'm putting that much money down as an investment, how will people remember me? How will people remember this split second that I just interact? Because you only get 1 or 2 seconds, and
that's
someone's
it.
either bought in or they're on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So where can people find you online, Curtis?
You can find me at the Curtis Harkness on Instagram. You can find me also at eventhostlive.com, or you can find me on our main account website, 35creatives.com, or at 35creatives on
Awesome.
Instagram.
Thank you so much for joining the show again, Curtis. I really enjoyed this episode. It's a little twist from all the previous episodes that I haven't really talked about event marketing and
Yeah,
AI. So I appreciate you giving some insight there.
100%, man. I'm excited, and hopefully I can be back next time.
Absolutely. We'll have you on again in the future. So thanks again for everyone listening to this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. Be sure to tune in again next time.